Hey, I'm Brian. This is Ship It Weekly by Tellers Tech. If you're new here, I've worn the DevOps, SRE, and platform engineering hats over the years, and I do some coaching on the side. This show is me skimming the noise and pulling out what actually matters when you're the one running infra and owning reliability. All right, this week's theme is pretty obvious. Your CI is a dependency. Vendor pricing models are shifting under your feet, and AI is getting shoved into pipelines in ways that create entirely new failure modes. Let's start with GitHub. So, GitHub announced a pricing change for Actions that would have added a cloud platform charge to self hosted runners in private and internal repos. Not compute, you still pay for your own compute. This was basically GitHub charging for the orchestration layer and the control plane side of Actions. People freaked out, loud, and fast. And GitHub came out and said they're postponing that billing change while they reevaluate. So the story isn't they're charging now. The story is they tried to charge, got major pushback, and hit pause. Important detail though, they're still moving forward with reducing hosted runner prices in 2026. So GitHub is still actively tuning the economics of Actions. They're just not ready to light up the self-hosted runner fee just yet. Then, because timing is hilarious, GitHub hosted action runners had an incident yesterday. I'm not even bringing that up to dunk on them, it just reinforces the point. Actions is not just CI. GitHub is part of your delivery control plane. When it's down or degraded, a lot of companies basically lose their ability to ship, deploy, or recover cleanly. So here's the platform lesson. Even if the fee is postponed, this is your warning shot. GitHub wants to monetize Actions like a platform product, not a free feature. If you own CI/CD, now is the time to get your house in order. Start measuring Actions minutes by repo and by workflow, especially the expensive ones. The long integration suites, the run everything on every PR pipelines, the stuff that's there because it's always been there. Then go hunt down dumb minutes, not even because you're scared of pricing, but because it's usually a straight win anyway. Faster PR feedback, fewer queues, less flakiness, lower compute costs, and less "why did this run 12 times" noise. Also, write down your GitHub is sad plan. Like literally. If GitHub Actions is down, what can still happen? Can you still deploy a hotfix? Can you still promote an image? Can you still roll back? Or is your plan basically we wait and refresh the status page? Even a tiny break glass path is better than chaos. All right, let's go from GitHub pricing whiplash to HashiCorp pricing whiplash. So HashiCorp is finishing the transition off of the old legacy free plan for HCP Terraform. The legacy free plan hits end of life on March 31st, 2026, and orgs get moved to the newer free tier. That newer free tier includes unlimited users, but it caps at 500 managed resources. And that managed resources limit is why this is suddenly a big deal for real teams. Because 500 resources sounds like a lot if you're thinking workspaces, but it's not workspaces. It's actual managed infrastructure objects. If you've got a couple of EKS clusters, their node groups, IAM roles, policies, security groups, route tables, DNS, plus supporting stuff, plus a few environments, you can hit 500 way faster than you think. So the takeaway here is not HashiCorp is bad or everyone panic. It's you need to know your numbers. If you're using Terraform Cloud or HCP Terraform, go find out. Are you still on legacy free? How many managed resources you actually have today? And how fast that number is growing. Then decide what your reality-based options are. Maybe you're fine and this doesn't matter. Maybe you need to clean up old stacks and dead environments so you stop paying for zombie infra and zombie state. Maybe you need a paid tier because you're not a hobby shop. Or maybe you do want to move away. But do that as a controlled migration, not a March 2026 emergency where your pipeline turns into a pumpkin. This is the part I keep coming back to. Platform work is interestingly vendor economics work, not just Kubernetes and Terraform syntax. You need a basic plan for what if the rules change. All right, Now we're going to take the your pipeline is a dependency theme and add AI to it, which is where things get extra weird. There's a write up from Aikido about what they're calling prompt pwned. This is basically the prompt injection meets CI CD story. Here's the pattern. Teams are wiring AI agents into GitHub Actions or similar pipelines. The agent reads issues, PR descriptions, commit messages, logs, test output, and then makes decisions. Maybe it opens a PR, maybe it posts a comment, maybe it runs scripts, maybe it has tools. The problem is a lot of that input is untrusted. PR text is untrusted. Issue bodies are untrusted. Commit messages can be untrusted. So if that untrusted content goes into the model prompt without guardrails, an attacker can basically smuggle instructions into the agent. And if the agent has the ability to run commands or use privileged tokens, you've created a new kind of supply chain exploit. It's not run untrusted code, it's run untrusted text through a system that has hands. So what do we do about it as platform folks? Treat AI agent inputs like you treat user input in an app. Sanitize, filter, don't just shove raw PR bodies into prompts. Keep the agent's permissions brutally minimal. If it doesn't need right, don't give it right. If it doesn't need cloud creds, don't give it cloud creds. If it's running in CI, don't give it a token that can do anything interesting. And if the agent generates commands, don't auto-execute them like, well, the robot said so. This whole space is new enough that a lot of people are still in the this is fun phase. We're already entering the this is now a security boundary phase. All right. One more main story, and this one is classic security hygiene. There was a report that Home Depot had an exposure that allegedly granted access to internal systems for about a year. Not trying to pile on them, big companies have weird internal sprawl and stuff slips. But the reason I think it's worth mentioning on this show is because this is the exact kind of incident that happens in a lot of orgs, just smaller and quieter. Usually it's some variant of a token was exposed somewhere it shouldn't be. The token had way more access than it needed. Nobody noticed for way too long. Detection and response was slower than it should have been. And even if you rotate creds, the bigger question is, how did it get there? And why did it have that much power? So what can you actually take back to your team from this? Secrets should expire. If you can't expire them, they should at least be rotated on a schedule that doesn't require drama. If it's a long-lived credential that can't be rotated, that's a smell. Assume exposure will happen. Design the blast radius like it will. If a token leaks, what can it do? One service, one environment, or is it basically welcome to the kingdom? And lastly, detection. How quickly would you notice a token is being used from a weird place? Do you even log that in a way you can query? Do you have alerts? Does anyone own those alerts? A lot of orgs treat secret scanning as nice to have. It's not. It's one of the simplest ways to prevent a year-long "how is this still alive" story. All right, let's do a quick lightning round. CDK for Terraform. CDK TF is officially sunset and the repo is archived. If you're using it, you're now in fork or migrate territory. The official guidance is basically synthesize to HCL and move on. Bitbucket is doing cleanup of free, unused workspaces. If you have dead orgs or old workspaces that nobody touches, you don't want to wake up to surprise deactivations or deletions. Inventory your SaaS, it's boring, but it's real. And SourceHut is proposing pricing changes. I like mentioning this stuff because it's a reminder that even the indie dev tooling world is under cost pressure. Different scale than GitHub, same underlying reality. Infra costs money, and pricing models eventually shift. All right, quick human moment before we wrap. This week is a good example of something nobody is really talking about. Platform whiplash. Like GitHub floats a pricing change, everyone scrambles, then it gets postponed. HashiCorp shifts plan definitions, and suddenly you're doing math on managed resources. Meanwhile, teams are wiring AI into CI pipelines, and now you're responsible for weird new security boundaries you didn't ask for. None of this is hard tech in a fun way. It's mental load. It's context switching. It's the quiet stress of realizing your job isn't just keeping systems up. It's also keeping your org from getting surprised by vendor changes. So if you're the person who owns CI, IAC, or platform reliability, here's a thing I've started doing that helps. Make a tiny platform watch list. Not a big roadmap doc, just a running note with 3 columns. What changed? What it breaks, and what we're doing about it. And the bar for what we're doing about it can be small. Sometimes it's literally measure action minutes, or check our Terraform managed resource count, or write down break glass deploy path. Because what burns people isn't one big outage. It's a constant drip of little, oh, by the way, changes that all become your problem. So, yeah, if this week felt like chaos, it's not just you. Put it in a lightweight system so your brain doesn't have to hold it all. All right. So the vibe this week is GitHub and HashiCorp are both messing with the economics of the platforms a lot of us depend on. AI agents are being wired into pipelines in ways that create brand new attack paths. And security stories like the Home Depot one keep reminding us that the boring basics are still the basics for a reason. If you got value out of this episode, please subscribe wherever you are listening. Seriously, it helps. And if you know the one person on your team who always ends up being the prod is weird detective, send it to them. I'm Brian. This is Ship It Weekly by Tellers Tech. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next week.